one of the stories that Contrarian was actually trying to cover was the Graham Platner who was running in Maine. I know we actually part of the print journalism is sometimes the narrative change. So I know we had a article teed up to go, but I'm not familiar. But yeah, what was maybe Graham Platner in a place like Maine? What was he saying to people there that was resonating? And yeah, what was kind of the hit job? Because right, it seems like the establishment everywhere is doing hit jobs on alternative cans. So what was the Graham Platner? What's the
Yeah, so Graham Platner, the establishment. When I say the establishment, I mean the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment was absolutely terrified of him, because going back to the sticker here about Tim Kennedy, he used the word genocide. He did not accept money from AIPAC. He did not accept money from any corporate PAC. And he talked to people, he traveled the entire state and he talked to people about how things are not working and how it's because of the billionaire class.
And he kept using the phrase the Epstein class to refer to them.
Exactly. And they were terrified as they saw his momentum start to grow. And he absolutely crushed the primary. And they realized, wow, this guy, we don't want this guy's message going any further. We've got to stop him. So first the smears began. A tattoo he got when he was a young drunk Marine in Croatia with his buddies, and they saw skull and crossbones on the wall. Said, that looks cool, let's get that. And so, oh, he's a Nazi. That was the first thing they tried to use against him. When that didn't work, they escalated it. Old Reddit posts, which is beyond ridiculous, because I don't.
He was blaming sexual assault victims. I think the problem with Graham Platner wasn't that he was anti-establishment. It's that the people who picked him did like zero vetting. They were notified he had the Nazi tattoo in their vetting. They admitted that in this disastrous interview they did with the Washington Post. So he was notified in advance and could have had it covered even before he went national, if he really didn't know. But like, he was on Reddit. Yes, they like dug that up. That also came up in their op research. And like, he was blaming victims of sexual assault amongst other things. And it wasn't like when he was 15 or something. So Graham Platner objectively had major issues.
He did, but he owned up to them in a way that
Absolutely
other
did.
people that run for office generally don't. He didn't try to downplay anything he said or did. He said in many different ways, I fucked up, and I am very sorry to everybody who was hurt by the things I said or did.
One thing that he said that resonated with me was he said, I want to be judged by the person that I am today, not the person that I was years ago. That's all he wanted.
I think the things I'm realizing, it comes back to the Charter Revision Commission too, of like sometimes there's a difference between the people's character, what they've done, and then also what they're saying. So sometimes someone might have a troubled past, and they might be saying some things that are right. I just think tying back to the Charter Revision Commission of Maria White, when the Holtzman-Vogel proposed actual language to the charter, she didn't say anything about the charter. It was attacking Holtzman-Vogel as the tip of the spear of the Trump agenda, sheep in wolf clothing. I think it's it. It's just a tactic that's used is kind of attack the messenger and the person. Even though in the Holtzman case, I didn't look into them enough, but
So
I think it's.
I actually did follow up on this because I was horrified when I read that she had spoken in opposition of this, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it. So what I think is disappointing with her specifically is she was wholesale disregarding everything that they were putting forward, and that included ranked choice voting. I think the big issue is open primaries is like concerning to some people. I just listened to an excellent interview on NPR yesterday with Jasmine Gripper. She's the executive director of the Working Families Party in New York, and she was explaining that like Unite New York is part of this organization called Unite USA, and they are only doing this in places where in blue districts, and the open primaries is like kind of one step that like remains in question as like, but she from the work, she specifically Miss Gripper wasn't opposed to ranked choice voting. She's a fan, like there's a little bit to be concerned about, and that's the tip of the spear, but you don't wholesale disregard everything. You just don't. Ranked choice voting is effective and works. Without it, New York City would have Andrew fucking Cuomo against sex pest and asshole, right? He was the safe candidate.
The center
The
candidate. That is,
center candidate, the corporate dem. And so I think that is more important because they don't, that's what the corporate machine doesn't want. That's what the Democratic machine doesn't want. They don't want ranked choice voting. And that's why I'm like all about figuring out a way to get those petitions to work. And I think it can be done with, if you don't go door to door, which is the traditional petitioning process, if you go to events where people are. So like a high school basketball game that has two Buffalo schools playing each other, every parent and person who's there is already community minded. And they will talk to you. Yes, it takes time, but like it can be done. I'm still looking into all the legalities, but
and
I think it's worth trying.
I think I am optimistic that I think maybe in the digital age too, it's the people, right? It's the people that are going to change things. And I think we're so long we wait for the perfect. And I think I read a quote of this shit show started when JFK got assassinated, because the thought is that once he took out, that force that took him out. But I think we often wait for like this Jesus Christ like figure that has this perfect background and can unite. It says nothing negative. To come save us. But I think it's actually going to be people. It's going to be people, whether it's passing petitions, whether it's calling their congressman demanding no more APAC money. But the things that we want, that, the center, which the Jeremy Zellners and the establishment are trying to bring us toward, the center that doesn't exist, it's actually going to be the people that I think the people have a lot of power. And I think, I'm hopeful that whether it's global, local, national, that we kind of realize that we have more power and that we can demand our politicians hold certain positions that we want.
And that brings up an interesting point because of what happened to Courtney. They want to scare people from acting against them. So by harassing you and arresting you and putting you through everything you're going through right now, they're hoping not only that shuts you up, but it also shuts all of us up. And it has a chilling effect. So we just get in line and shut our mouths and we don't fight at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know I'm optimistic that maybe, people will unite, or I always had this hypothesis that the right and the left will unite one day, and I think it is over just freedom of speech. I think we grew up on certain democratic principles of we might disagree, but we're America, we can say what we want, we can get angry at each other, and no violence is going to happen, and that's how we work out our things, and I'm kind of hopeful that'll happen, but...
Well, see, it's bottom versus top. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a class war.
It is. Absolutely. All the rest of it, the divisive stuff, it's just to keep us fighting ourselves and lose sight of the fact that it is a class war.
Absolutely.
It's us versus the billionaire class, the Epstein class.
The Epstein class. I think it's really important is that there's starting to be more talk, I think it's the DSA, about what it actually means to be working class. It's not just like your wage slave. A doctor making $400,000 a year with their own practice is much closer to a homeless person than they will ever be to a billionaire. Mm-hmm. And there is no such thing as an ethical billionaire. You are not achieving that without exploiting.
Yeah. I heard language here around the maker and taker class. So whether you're a poet...
Parasite class, Epstein class, parasite class,
whether you're a poet or a
class,
plumber or a computer engineer, you ultimately make things, whereas someone like a Maria White is taking things from taxpayers. And
more than half of all consumer spending in the United States today is done by the richest 10% of Americans. And that's how they measure success, all the politicians, by how much are we spending. And it's not the bottom 90% that are doing the spending. It's not the bottom 90% that have anything meaningful in the stock market.
Yeah.
These metrics.
Hey, the stock market's doing fine, though. Isn't that good for the working class?
It's a matter of
They don't have any investments because they don't have any money because they can't pay their bills.
This bubble is just waiting to burst. Oh my God!
I like the analogy too of like Burger King and McDonald's exist so that we have this robust debate around King or McDonald's when actually the solution is vegetables. But as long as and I think that's where the left and the right stick together, right? As long as there's left and right Republicans, Democrats, we won't talk about the real issues, which are getting APAC money out of our thing, doing ranked choice voting, having Yeah, so I think that's kind of the analogy that I use. But hopefully things with the contrarian, alternative sources of news, and yeah, people actually speaking truth to power, whether that's a Graham Platner in Maine, telling the senator in APAC to stop taking APAC money, or an artist putting glue and paper on the curb, that, yeah, it's people like us and contrarian commissioners that fight back against the, this feudalistic future we're fighting.
And go to the website that Matt has worked so hard on to find out where to get a copy.
So we have BuffaloContrarian.com. We have information, and we do have a map now of all our locations where you can pick up a copy.
Beautiful.
So
I was just looking at this list. It's 4 public libraries, 3 different community hubs, and 3 different independent bookstores.
Yeah.
So you've got some great options.
yeah, we are the Buffalo Contrarian, and till next time, thank you, Commissioner Reese, for joining us, and yeah, Courtney.
Yes,
for
and
coming.
I have one final question. If we're all so smart, why ain't we rich?
I know why I'm not. I do social practice art. You can't sell paper you glue to the ground.
Well, thank you, and yeah, till next time, that's the Buffalo Contrarian show.
Also, Peter, I think you are rich.
Zell now.